What is D&D, or also known as Dungeons and Dragons? How do you play it? What do you need to have in order to be able to play it? These are many questions that I've been posed by a lot of people in some of the chats and in person. With the recent release of the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie with Chris Pines, Michelle Rodriguez, Hugh Grant, and a number of other awesome actors, a lot of people have been coming through and asking these types of questions. You've come to the right place to get those answers. I'm Chaos, and this is ChaoticBeagle Entertainment. In this intro video, we're going to go over what I feel are some of the main things that you kind of need to have in order to be able to, I guess, have a good, thorough experience with Dungeons and Dragons. A few things are optional. So we're going to go over those in this video. I thank you all for joining me today, and let's get to it. What is D&D to begin with? So Dungeons and Dragons is a role-playing game, or a tabletop role-playing board game, if you will. It's basically using your imagination to tell a story, have fun, be a player character. You can be heroes or villains or mercenaries or any number of different things as players. And I feel there are 6 main things that you need to kind of have in order to be able to really flesh out and be able to accomplish just D&D in general. These are not all required. Some of them will be optional items that just kind of help with the immersion and getting an idea of what's happening and where. But in this video, we're going to, this is just a quick intro to kind of go over some of those things, what I feel are the main points of what need to be in place for D&D for everybody to have fun and to have an understanding of kind of what's going on. I've only been a dungeon master or game master or lore master, as some of them have been called, for maybe 6 or 8 years that I've been playing. I've been playing for much, much longer than that. But as a dungeon master, I've only been doing that for a number of years. What I feel and what I think the dungeon master truly is not only a rules guru or rules master. A dungeon master is also kind of a narrator. The dungeon master's role is basically to put together the story that the players are going to be, adventuring their way through. The big parts about it, the dungeon master will control the NPCs. They'll control monsters, shopkeepers, nobles, animals, monsters. They kind of set the tone, set the scene, kind of set up everything for the players to work their way through. The puzzles and, the interactions, a lot of those types of things. I've had some DMs that were very lenient with things. I've had some DMs that were very strict with things. It kind of just depends how you want to run it yourself. I am very much a dungeon master that likes to I like to see the players throwing different things at you. Not only are you there to guide the players with the rules and the story, but also I like to see people thinking out of the box and doing interesting things, fun and interesting things that happen, challenge me as a dungeon master in order to be able to give them a fun and interesting experience that they will take to other groups and other friends and other people they know, and they're going to tell the stories. They're going to be like, hey, we did this awesome thing happened, and this creature came in, and we did this awesome stuff. That's what I like. That's what I want my players walking away from the table after playing a session of Dungeons and Dragons. I want them taking that kind of stuff away. If it's funny, great. I want them to feel tension. I want them to feel like the next fight could be their last. But at the same time, I don't want the the dungeon master is going to have control over how difficult things are and how easy things are, and that in of itself is not easy. That can be very challenging. You have some players that may push you to really max out health points and try to use every tool in your arsenal to at least put tension, if not injure them. You may have to knock a couple of people down so that way others are like, oh snap, I need to do something. I need to figure something out. That's a lot of what the Dungeon Master is. The Dungeon Master is kind of the rules master, the games master that you set the pacing. There may be times where the players are taking a long while to figure out something simple, and you may sometimes what I'll do is behind the Dungeon Master's screen, which this is a DM screen. This is usually what a DM will have in front of them while they're playing. Not only is it just kind of cool to see, I got my little red dragon on there. Not only is it cool to see, on the back of it, it will have so many different things. The size of creatures, conditions, if they are knocked paralyzed, or if they're petrified, or they're poisoned, or they're invisible. Charts that you can roll on for random encounters. The adventurers are traveling through the woods, and they happen upon a random group of merchants that are being attacked by bandits, or a pack of hungry wolves that haven't eaten in months. Haven't eaten in days, and they're starving, and they're looking for their next tasty meal, and the adventurers just happen to walk over that hill or between those trees. This is a lot of times what a dungeon master will have in front of them. And you have to control the pace. That's a big thing of it. Sometimes behind the screen, I'll roll and I'll just look at, my players and put tension on them to be like, oh, okay, we need to just make a decision. Sometimes they, let them deliberate, let them interact, but sometimes you gotta push them a little bit and be like, hey, let's keep moving here. So that's pretty much, and as it goes through, Dungeon Master will be the one in control of the monsters. So every fight, everybody can do it differently. You can have a mindset like a MMORPG kind of video game mindset. The last person that hit me is the person that this monster is going to want to chase after. Or there may be a certain race that a wolf is like, I see a gnome. I love the taste of gnomes over humans. I'm going to go after them. There's a lot of stuff that the Dungeon Master is in control of, and it's their job to, keep that under control, keep it moving, and keep the story enticing. Give them a carrot on a stick to chase after. That's a lot of what the Dungeon Master's role is. Next thing on the list is the players. This is going to be the PC or player characters. These are the adventurers or the people sitting at your table that are going to be experiencing your campaign, experiencing the story and the intrigue and the mystery and all the different things that you're going to be throwing at them, the combat, the life or death situations, the friendship that they build, the backstories that they have. That's all going to be basically on the end of the player characters or PCs. They could be adventurers, looking to, make their mark on the land and leave a history behind. They could be heroes that are just trying to save the day, to stop the evil cults or the demonic beings or anything along those lines. They could be mercenaries. They're just here to make a buck. As long as they're getting paid, you keep pointing in a direction, they'll keep knocking down whoever you want to knock down, and to keep the story, progressing. And, a lot of times what I try to have the players do is come up with a mindset for their character. Is he a criminal that's trying to make a buck? Is it a mercenary that's trying to make a buck? Or, is it a hero that's trying to save the land? Is it, some sort of worshiper that is trying to bring about the best of times for the god or deity that they are following. There's any number of different ways, but players, the second most essential thing is players to actually play and experience the story that you are trying to tell, or trying to have them walk through and experience and become a part of. And that's a big thing. I mean, you can have new people coming in. You can have old people going out. I've had previous campaigns where we had a pretty, over the course of a couple of years, had a pretty in and out rotation of people coming in and people going out. So as a DM, as a dungeon master, you got to be ready for that kind of stuff to take place. Some people take it a little too seriously, and then some people don't take it seriously enough, So that's something, that the DM is responsible for kind of taking control of and taking care of as well. But the player characters are, the ones going through. You could even have it set up to where the players are actually villains. Maybe they are a evil group of, whatever races that are trying to stop a hero group from doing something, or, they're just out there to make things better for themselves and for their races, or it could be anything. But that's some of the drive and some of the things that you'll want to put with the players to kind of put their mind into and their mindset in. But that's the second most essential part. Players, they could be, any number of different races. They could be, there's Goliaths and humans and dwarves and elves and gnomes and furlbogs and lizard folk and turtles, which is a turtle kind of person. They can most definitely be whatever they want. They can even take characters from movies, from video games, from cartoons, TV shows, comic books. You can pretty much take any of those and create some kind of a D&D character from. So that's the other fun part about it, is the character creation and the characters that they are going to build, and how deeply involved they feel with those characters, how connected they are with the mindset of the character that they've put together. I've had, we've got people that don't do things in real life. They don't drink or cuss or do anything like that. But then when it comes to D&D, they're playing as another person in another world. So they could very well, they go and drink and, party and, they're a slob and whatever. Or, maybe they're just not that caring of a person in real life, but then they get into D&D and next thing you know, they're worried about the party member next to them, whether that person's going to survive or not, saving them if they're about to fall off of a cliff. Any number of different things. The players are a very essential part to Dungeons and Dragons and the fun that everyone will have, and the story, how it goes. Usually the player characters are the main control over how fast a campaign goes. Sometimes it can be quick. You got some people that'll just chug through it, and then you got some people that take their time, and they want to figure out all the puzzles, and they want to find all the hidden items, and this, that, and the other. It's a great thing that can take place with the player characters on that end. So that's item number 2 on our list. Item number 3 on the list is going to be pencil and paper. Also with a little bit of imagination. But basically, pencil and paper are the 2 essential items that you're going to need in order to be able to play D&D, just so you have somewhere to record down information on items, things, and other stuff as well. Most notably, the character sheet. From the character sheet, you will have stats that you will roll to figure out how athletic your person is, how fast they are, how strong, how much hit points they have, how wise and experienced they are, how charismatic they are interacting with nobles and kings, shopkeepers and townsfolk, children and animals, things like that. You will have those stats. Usually there are 6: strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma are the 6 main stats that you'll have. Those will culminate into skills. Skills will be athleticism, acrobatics, sleight of hand, insight, telling whether or not you get a gut feeling somebody is telling the truth or not, history or medicine, a number of different, there's a whole list there. And those abilities will culminate into the skills, which will determine, as you are, trying to cross a gorge, there might be an area where you have to walk across a rope in tightrope walk or something, walking across a branch on a tree. It'll let you know basically if there's a possibility of something going wrong, you tripping and falling and injuring yourself, then that will be something that the DM will have you roll a die or a d20 to determine if it takes place. Your stats will determine how good or bad you are at it. So if you know your character is not really good at balance, probably not a good idea to try and tightrope walk. But let's say you're really strong and really athletic, you might be able to just do a long jump. Or you might be able to just climb down one side and climb up the other. You want to go and, play to the strengths of your character, which will be indicated on your character sheet. Character sheet will also house information on if a trap opens up and darts come flying out of the wall. How fast are you at reacting to those darts to dodge them and not get hit? How many hit points you have, what kind of gear you have on. If you have armor, if you have swords, hammers, battle axes, daggers, rope, whips, whatever you might have, that will also be housed on the character sheet. You will also have, your hit points on there. You will have your initiative. Initiative will basically determine what kind of bonuses you will receive. If your character goes into combat, where they will fall in line during that combat section. So for combat, what will end up happening is everybody will roll a d20 and they will have an initiative modifier. Some might have a +1, some might have a +2, some might have a +7. So they have a better chance of going earlier in that fight than somebody that has a lower modifier. Depending on how they roll. You can have somebody with a +7 that rolls a 1. You can have somebody that has a +2 that rolls a 15. That person that has a +2 that rolled a 15 is at 17. And the person that has +7 rolled a 1, they're at an 8. So the person that rolled the 2 is going to go first. They just have a higher possibility. So you got a +2 and a +7. Let's say both of them roll 10. You're going to have a 12 and a 17. 17 is going to go first. So that's usually how that operates in that section of it. But again, you will also have, if you have a backpack, anything you have stored in the backpack. If you have climbing supplies, you have a Dungeon Delver's kit, you have medical supplies, you got a thieves tool set. Anything that you have is going to be stored on the player character sheet. This is basically going to be your character, their build, and what they are good at, what they are bad at, and everything in between. All right, on to item number 4 on our list, which is going to be books. Lots and lots of books. No, I'm just kidding. Honestly, there are 3 essential books that are the basis for the whole D&D system. Those 3 books are going to be the Dungeon Master's Guide. This is basically going to be the primary book that the Dungeon Master is going to use when it comes to, rolling for magical items, or if you want to roll for creating a location. You can do random rolls. They have charts and different things in this book that you can roll on to randomly create whatever area, zone, dungeons, forests, mountains, whatever. There are magical items in this book that you can give out leniently, or you can just be throwing them out like beads at a Mardi Gras. That's going to be kind of up to the DM, and this is going to be the primary book that the Dungeon Master is going to use in order to control a lot of the stuff. It's got rules. It's got a few extra little add-on things as far as like maybe classes and things. It's got lore. There's a lot of stuff in this book. This is going to be the basis for the Dungeon Master to use in order to run a D&D story, campaign, whatever it may be. The second one is going to be the Player's Handbook. This is going to be the main handbook that any player will need in order to be able to know how a spell operates. It has character creation in here in a step-by-step process. You pick your race, you pick your class, you pick your background, you pick your gear. Everything that you want to do in order to create a character is going to be in the Player's Handbook. It's essential for everybody to have one available. There are ways of getting this digitally. You can get PDFs, you can get downloads, you can get it online. This is going to be an essential book for any player that is playing D&D to be able to have in order to basically just play their character, play D&D. This is the second most essential book. Third most essential is going to be the Monsters Manual. This is going to be basically just a book full of monsters. It's going to have all their names, skills, abilities, challenge ratings. So for a creature, it'll say that it has a challenge rating. That challenge rating is basically going to indicate how strong that monster is. So if there's a monster, they can be as low as 1/4 to 1/8, and as high as up to 20 or 30. What it means is basically for a challenge rating 1 monster, you would need 4 player characters at level 1 for that one monster to be a match for. So let's say you have a creature that is a challenge rating 1/2, 0.5, 1/2. So that means that you would need 2 of those creatures by themselves, and that would be the equivalent difficulty of 4 level 1 characters taking on 2 of that character, and that's an even fight. You can up the difficulty or lower the difficulty, and determined by the challenge rating. So basically, a challenge rating 10 creature means that you would it would be an even fight or a fair fight for 4 level 10 characters to take on that 1 level 10, creature. So that's kind of how the challenge rating works. A little bit of finagling here and there. Some of these have some really, really interesting abilities. They can cast spells. They can do different things. They can wing flap to knock people down, and frightful presence, and petrifying stares of basilisks, and just things like that. Anything you can think of, they probably got in this book. But the base book, Monster Manual by itself, is the primary book that any Dungeon Master would need in order to be able to run a campaign. But those are the 3 most essential books that are needed for doing D&D. There are 2 other types of books that go along with D&D. These are optional. It's totally up to the DM, players, whoever is going through all of this. But the other ones are, and this is just a few. I've got many others, but these are just a few. Swords Coast, Volos, Mordekainen's. So these books, and again, this is just a few. These books are add-ons. These will add on extra spells, extra races, extra monsters, extra background types. These are just additional add-ons. You don't have to have these in any way, shape, or form. They just kind of opened it up to where, as WotC was going through and adding in other races to kind of diversify and add in more options than what's just in the player's handbook or just in the DM's guide. This was their way of releasing books, more content for people to pick up to make, more of whatever they wanted to make. They put in the Goliaths which are basically half giant classes. They put in Aarakocras, which are bird people. Just different stuff like that. So these were books that were released to add on extra stuff, extra monsters, extra races, that just kind of expanded upon what was already there. Love some of these books. I've picked up numerous ones. They even have one that is the Guild Masters of Ravnica, which is a crossover between Magic the Gathering and the D&D universe. So these are add-on books. Not required, fun to have, lots of really cool and interesting things for you all to have as you're playing through D&D. But this is the second set. The third set and the third type of book that is available are campaign books. Campaign books come in 3 different formats. So this is a stack, and again, I've got more on the bookshelf. This is a stack of campaign books. This is essentially the story that a dungeon master is going to run for the players. The very first one that I ran, I loved it. It did need a little bit of work, but it was the very first campaign book that they released when the system was debuted, was Horde of the Dragon Queen. This one was so much fun. Had a ball with it. I love dragons. I am a dragon fanatic. I love them in every way, shape, and form that they come. This was the first one that they released, and then they later opened up with The Rise of Tiamat. So this format is basically one story in 2 books. So basically you start out with Dragon Queen. This will take you from level 1 to 7. And it says on the back, I don't know if I can get it to show there. Yes. So right there, characters level 1 to 7. So with that, if they play through this storyline, they survive everything, they beat the boss at the end, they will be round about level 7. They can be a little higher, a little lower, but they should be, if you follow the way the book has it formatted, they will be about level 7. Then, this book says level 8 through 15. So this is a continuation of the Horde of the Dragon Queen. So you finish this book, and they move on to this book, which will get them level 15. So these 2 books together, this is the first format, these 2 books together is one story. And they have several of them set up that way, where it starts off in one book, takes off to another book, and then once they complete that book, they're whatever level that, they got to. Now a DM can add more. I did. You all can actually see some of that live from the videos that I had posted up on the YouTube channel here. So that's one format. Another format is basically a all-in-one level 1. So this one is level 1 to 13. This one's level 1 to level 10. And these don't continue on into any other books. They're just a all-in-one story. Again, you can add more, you can take away, whatever you want to do, however the players operate, in the group that you have. But these are basically just storybooks that the players get to play through and experience, the stories and the antics and the puzzles and the sprawling countrysides in the huge cities and wherever it may take place. That's what these books are for. It basically just gives you a pre-constructed storyline to play through, enjoy, have fun, and for your players to experience. The third format that they do is basically like these. We got Candlekeep, Tales of the Yawning Portal, and Ghosts of Salt Marsh. These books are basically numerous short stories. So there's a level 1 story, a level 2, a level 3, and you can kind of even take these, and let's say they're doing one of the other campaigns, you can take some of these, let's say they're level 2, and you want to give them a little extra boost and get them up to level 3 before they start, another story, they start another chapter in one of the main books, you can add one of these in. Maybe they travel from Baldur's Gate and go to Candle's Keep, or they go from, Icewind Dale down to the Yawning Portal and end up doing some of the stories. And so these are like short story or one-shots, as a lot of people call them. These are, it just has like 7 or 8 different little stories or one-shots or missions, however you want to call it, mini campaigns or whatever. You can do a couple out of here, you can do one out of here. You can, these have numerous ones that you can just mix and match, plug and play, and just to give another variety. So that way, let's say you've got some players that have never played before, and you want to start them off at level 2, so you give them a level 2 mission out of one of these books, let them play through it, see if they like it. If they do, great, then you can pick up one of the big books, or you can play more out of these books, however you would like to handle it. And if they don't, then you haven't spent a lot of time and devoted a lot of resources. You haven't devoted a lot of resources into these to figure out if they like it or not. So, but those are the 3 main things: the main rule books, the add-on rule books, and then the campaign books. That are the essential parts of D&D in general. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't do a homebrew. So there are basically the campaign books. You can go online. There's a number of different websites, and I'll put a link to a few of them down in the comments below, where you can go and get modules. Basically, it's a little downloadable, kind of like the small one-shot stories from some of these, a level 2, a level 1, a level 3. You can find level 10s, level 20. You can find what we call modules. Modules are going to be basically just a pre-constructed storyline that somebody else put together, and you can kind of take ideas from it. You can go and download some of them. Some of them you can find for a cheap price. Download them, play them, see if your players like it, or if you have seasoned players that have high-level characters and they want to do a level 20 mission, then you can find some of those online where somebody came up with a whole story. What creatures are in it, what monsters, and everything else. So you can kind of find that online. Again, I'll find some different websites to put in the comments below in case people are interested in not only some of these books, but also some of the modules. Then there's also the other way of doing a story, which is a homebrew. That's basically, you just come up with your own storyline. You come up with the monsters, the NPC characters, the barkeeps, the back alley bargain hunters, the black markets, all that kind of stuff, the cities, the everything. You basically just create everything from scratch, and the players play through it. Homebrews can be nice. They can sometimes be difficult, but it just depends on the person creating them, how difficult they want to make it, and how fun they think it should be. Homebrews are nice. They can be very daunting. They're very time-consuming to create because you've got to come up with the whole creation. Sometimes you can take inspiration from video games, MMOs, movies. I've seen a large number of people go and take insight from those and create their own little homebrew storylines. And I had a buddy once that decided he wanted to do Resident Evil, so he took D&D and made a whole Resident Evil storyline that we played through. It was a ball. He had even created and homebrewed his own character class. So with the player's handbook, you're going to have things called classes for each of the characters. It can be paladins, clerics, fighters, monks, rangers, warlocks, sorcerers, wizards. He went and created his own class. With those, you know, it takes a bit of balancing to get them right. You can very easily create a overpowered, you know, a class or an underpowered class that just can't keep up with the escalating difficulty of monsters that they're going up against. So that's something to kind of keep in mind as well. But if not, the player's handbook, as you can see, mine has all the little tabs on the side for all the different sections of the book. I got the races, the classes, equipment, background, spells, and the appendix back here, because there's a few creatures that are in here, simple creatures. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the books. A quick little breakdown on those. The main ones being those three. You can usually get a good price on them. Amazon a lot of times will have sales where you can get them half off, so about $25 a piece. I love the smell of fresh books. It's one of my top 10 greatest smells. So I love buying new books. I like getting this, you know, the ones that are tied to the systems. But that's that item on the list, which was number 4. All right, time for item number 5 off of our list, which is going to be dice. Lots and lots of dice. Basically, with dice, you're going to have 7 different types of dice that you will use in order to play D&D. They will have different functions, different uses. Dice are like people's personality. Everybody has different dice that they like. Different colors, different types. I've got the red marble. Somebody else might have the fluorescent blues and greens, and any color, any type, they're like personalities. Everybody's going to have their own different take on what they like and don't like for dice. Some people like just random dice as long as it's got the number of sides they need. Some people like them for the colors and, you know, all the awesome little things that are involved with them. So those are the main things. Is going to be the dice. You've got the D20. After that, the next highest one is a D12. Then you have the D10, which there are 2 different versions of the D10. There is the tens version, and then there is the single digits version. After that, you have the D8, then the D6, then the D4. So these are all the different types of dice that you'll need in order to play D&D. Each set that you purchase is going to have one of each of these dice. So you'll get 7 dice per set. I think I have somewhere in the range of, I think I've got 4 sets here, 4 sets of, I think I've got somewhere in the range of about 20 sets of dice. You don't really need to have that many. I just have that many prepped and ready because I know that I'm going to be rolling a lot of them as the DM. As a player, 2, maybe 3 sets, and you should be covered on everything that you'll need in order to be able to play your character. As you go through, there's going to be ability scores that you'll need to roll. That's where you'll use a D20. If somebody's like, hey, I want to see if I can push this door open. Well, you're going to roll a D20, add your strength modifier to that, and then determined by the score that you have to hit. So let's say you have to hit a 15. I rolled a 10 on my D20. I've got a +5. So I hit the 15 needed to push that door open. I pushed it open. Let's say I need a 15 and I roll a 2. I've got a +5. That gives me a 7. That means I charge into the door, ram my shoulder in, and it goes nowhere. You know, and depending on the DM, you know, how close, you might be close to where maybe the door barely budges a little bit, but doesn't open all the way. So they got to do it again. Or if they're so far from the number that like absolutely nothing happens, and then they can get assistance from another player, which gives them a thing called advantage. If they have advantage, basically they'll take 2 D20s, roll them at the same time, take the higher number. If you have disadvantage, then you're going to roll 2d20s, take the lower of the two rolls, and that's the number that counts towards that ability check, attack, whatever it may be. Some of these other dice will normally be used for damage from a certain type of weapon. You've got a D12 battle axe. You've got a D10 longsword, or not a battle like a great axe or something. It might be 2d6s that you got to roll, or it might be a d8 when you are using it one-handed or two-handed. Different things that will come into play when you're rolling dice. Dice are very essential to the whole system. It adds a sense of excuse me. It adds a sense of realism. The randomness of something. If there's something that's going to happen and it's going to happen, then you won't normally have to roll dice. But if there's a possibility that you may not be able to, that if you charge that door open, you find out that there's actually a pitfall trap on the other side of that door. You know, you might be able to charge the door open, and maybe you charge open so hard that you fall through the other side and you fall into the pit, and, you know, somebody can possibly grab you to save you. If not, you might fall and take damage. You might fall to your death. There's no way of telling sometimes. But that's what dice are going to do. They are going to add in the randomness to determine what's going on as you go through your adventures. Your attacks have a random ability, you know, a random chance to hit or not. Ability checks. Let's say you're going to go and pickpocket somebody. You're going to roll a d20 plus the ability score, which is usually like deception or sleight of hand, to determine, did you deceive that person? Did you pick their pocket? Did you basically just, you know, punch him in the side of the leg, and next thing you know, they're like, you're a thief, get him. And next thing you know, you got the town guards on you. That's what the dice are there for. They add that essential component of randomness. Now, you can find some digital rollers online that'll roll digital dice for you. Those are nice. They're all right. But in general, I like the gritty physical feel of, you know, rolling a set of... Oh, God, that was horrible. I rolled a 1 and a 2. Yeah, that can happen. Sometimes you can roll double 20s. Sometimes you can roll double 1s. There's no telling. Luck is sometimes on your side, and sometimes it's not. But dice are the fifth most essential part of D&D roleplay. Yeah, I wish I didn't roll that. Better. Much better. Okay. All right, so let's get to the next one, and we'll finish this up. And last but not least, this last item is very optional. It is not needed. You do not require this to be able to play D&D, but it is fun. It is very good to have. It can be pricey, but sometimes you can get some decent prices. I personally have 3D printers, but it is miniatures. Miniatures, miniatures, miniatures. Miniatures come in a lot of different sizes. They come anywhere from tiny to small, medium, large, huge, and gargantuan. That's one thing is, you know, you can use minis to determine how far away you are from something, how far you're away from an enemy, how high or how low you may be on a cliffside. And the other part of using miniatures is maps. Now, these are optional items. You can utilize these a lot. You can utilize these just a little. Maybe you're only utilizing them for combats, or you're utilizing them for every aspect of a dungeon that they are going through. It all is determined really by the dungeon master and the players of what they would like to do. They can pick their own minis. You can go on Hero Forge and create, you know, whatever miniature of a hero that you want, of a villain, of a side character, or a NPC, also known as a non-player character, which is like shopkeeps, commoners, you know, royalty. Anybody that is not one of the players at the table is considered an NPC or a creature. So with those, It just depends. There's a lot of different kinds. There's a lot of different sizes. There's pretty much, you can probably find any miniature to fit any creature, player character, or anything otherwise that is available in the D&D system. I like to use miniatures. They're fun. They're visually just exciting to use. When you have this big winged dragon pops in out of nowhere and fights the villain, or you've got an owl bear, or somebody that transforms into an owl bear, and now you've got a little owl bear miniature that is on the board beating people up. Somebody transforms into a grizzly bear or a mouse. Imps. Flying cats, orcs, ogres and giants and worms and dragons, all the different types. So with those, they are fun to use. I like them for the visual aspect. I really believe that having a map that shows exactly where everybody's at and what's going on is very beneficial and very exciting for everybody to actually see what's taking place, to see what's in front of them. Visually, it just adds an extra aspect to playing D&D, but it's by no means required. The original D&D was done with paper and pen only. The only thing that was needed was your imagination, and you can very well do that. As long as the DM is doing a good job of explaining how far you are, what it looks like, the scene, as long as you can get good descriptions and the players can ask any questions and you can answer their questions, that's a very fun, enjoyable part. But I think that minis add another level, a very tasty, fun, and spicy level to playing D&D that I think really adds to the whole thing. So that to me, it's not required. It's very, very optional, is maps and the miniatures to utilize on those maps. But I think it adds a very connecting component between the players and what's going on in the scene, what's going on in the campaign. I enjoyed a lot. So that's pretty much my little quick intro video for D&D and what it's about and how you can do it and what you need and what you don't need. So I do appreciate everybody coming along, checking me out. If you have any questions or ideas or anything like that, please do throw them in the comments below. Love to hear from you all. Otherwise, that's all I've got for right now. I am Chaos with ChaoticBeagle, signing out of here. You all have a happy, safe, and fun time, and roll for initiative. Let's get this fight going.